So ever since the first trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day dropped, one concern has started spreading across the internet more and more. Does this movie have too many villains? Because when you actually stop and list everything reportedly happening in this movie, it starts sounding kind of insane. So far we have Scorpion, Tombstone, Boomerang, Tarantula, The Hand, the Punisher as an anti-hero, the Department of Damage Control, and even the return of the Hulk. And even though it's highly unlikely because Venom 3 tried to retcon it, but maybe even the Venom symbiote. That is a lot, and naturally fans immediately start comparing this movie to one of the most infamous superhero films ever made, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. Because if you remember, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 became controversial largely because people felt like the movie tried juggling too many villains and storylines at once. I mean, you had Sandman, Venom, Harry Osborn's Green Goblin, Peter's symbiote storyline, and the true villain of the movie, Mary Jane Watson. And the result was a movie many fans felt became overcrowded and tonally messy. So now people are wondering, is Brand New Day about to repeat the same mistake? And for my own personal take on this, I think it's a maybe. But I also think there's an important difference here that gives me some hope for this movie. Because unlike Spider-Man 3, I don't think every villain in Brand New Day is meant to function as a main villain. I think Marvel may actually be building something closer to like a crime ecosystem. Take Scorpion for example. Scorpion feels like the closest thing this movie has to a true physical antagonist for Spider-Man. Matt Gargan has been sitting in the background of the MCU ever since Spider-Man Homecoming, and fans have waited nearly a decade for his return. He already hates Spider-Man, and now based on the prison footage in the trailer, it looks like he may somehow become tied to the Hand, unless it's the Hand going after Daredevil, and Peter has to save him because that alone gives Spider-Man a major threat to deal with. And then you also have the character Tombstone. Tombstone is less of a supervillain boss battle character and more of a criminal empire figure. In the comics, Tombstone controls organized crime operations throughout New York and often manipulates other villains behind the scenes. So that means Tombstone may function more like this movie's crime world backbone rather than a final boss. And I think Tombstone's going to replace Wilson Fisk in New York City because Wilson Fisk ran so much of the crime, even worked with the Hand at times. So ultimately, I think that's going to be the main role of Tombstone in this movie. And then there's also Boomerang and Tarantula. And these characters probably won't have massive storylines, and the way I would use them is just like the minor villains like Mole Man and Red Ghost were used in the Fantastic Four for Steps movie. They were used in a montage, and I think that's exactly what they should do with Spider-Man Brand New Day. Have some of these minor villains be a part of a montage. And that's where I think Marvel may avoid the Spider-Man 3 problem, because if these villains are treated as parts of the world instead of full central arcs, the movie could actually feel bigger and more immersive instead of overcrowded. It's a lot to balance for one movie, especially when you add in the Punisher, who I'm very excited to see in this movie, and he may be the most dangerous addition narratively, because he's not a villain. I mean, based on Punisher One Last Kill, he may actually turn into somewhat of a hero, protecting the little guy, but he instantly changes the tone of this movie. The moment Frank Castle enters a Spider-Man story, everything becomes darker, because Punisher forces a moral conflict for Peter. Spider-Man believes people can change, and Punisher believes criminals deserve punishment. And that ideological clash could become one of the biggest emotional arcs of this movie. And just like in my previous videos, I think we're going to see scenes where Spider-Man is actively saving his enemies from his ally, the Punisher, which I think is going to be a really cool scene to watch in this film. And then we get to Dr. Bruce Banner, who's officially in this movie. We saw him in the trailer. He's going to help out with Peter's mutation. And in the second trailer, we did see that we will get Bruce Banner hulking out in this movie. And it's an interesting move because going into this movie, you know, people were thinking, you know, it's going to be a street level, you know, Spider-Man movie. But then you add the freaking Hulk in it, and it's like, kind of takes away from the big street level element. All of a sudden, Scorpion doesn't seem like that big of a threat, you know. We got the Hulk to worry about. The question is, how are they going to use him? Are they going to use him as, you know, helping Peter, or is he going to be like another roadblock for Peter to go through in this movie? One of several villains he's going to have to go through potentially. So, I'm going to assume, obviously, maybe Mr. Negative is in this movie. Maybe it's Sadie Sink's character, who maybe Jean Grey, maybe not, but maybe her character can control minds, and that's why we got Savage Hulk back. But it's like we already had Wanda Maximoff do the same thing to Hulk. I don't want to just see Bruce Banner be mind controlled again. I've just already seen it. I'm not really interested in that. So I think at least with Bruce Banner, they're going to use him kind of like the Lizard, because obviously there's no Dr. Kirk Connors that we know about in this universe. And just like we saw in the Amazing Spider-Man movie and TV shows and just the comics in general, Peter always went to Dr. Kirk Connors for help, especially when it came to science. And since we don't have a Kirk Connors, Bruce Banner is basically going to fill that role. And it's also cool, like the parallel of those characters is that they eventually become monsters. You know, they're brilliant scientists that ultimately test on themselves and become monsters. So obviously Dr. Kirk Connors becomes the Lizard, but I think that's what Banner's role will be, and then he's obviously gonna Hulk out. We'll find out how and why, but I kind of wish that he wasn't, because like I said earlier, it makes, you know, the other villains seem so small compared to the Hulk. So hopefully they find a creative way to use the Hulk instead of just, you know, Sadie Sink's character is mind controlling him and he's, you know, he's savage again. It's like, come up with a more creative way to bring the Hulk back. And hopefully it's because, you know, Banner wants to save Peter. Maybe he sees that he's in trouble. Maybe he's about to die at the hands of the Hand Ninjas. And boom, he decides to rip off, you know, his Hulk inhibitor and goes to help him out. And maybe he's in the potential missing character shot where Peter goes against all of the Hand Ninjas. So hopefully that's the reason why it's not just him being mind controlled. And here's my wildcard rumor that I refuse to die. And it's freaking Venom. And I know it's highly unlikely, especially because Marvel seems focused on a grounded New York storytelling right now, rather than, you know, another giant symbiote crossover. But we do know a piece of symbiote was left behind in the MCU after Spider-Man No Way Home, unless Venom 3 truly did just neuralize that from existence. But if Venom somehow appears on top of everything else already happening, then yes, I genuinely think this movie risks becoming overcrowded. But hey, what if Peter's DNA is not mutating from being around, you know, two very different Spider-Man? I mean, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man makes his own webbing. That's probably going to be part of Peter's evolution. His body realizing that, you know, his body could do that. What if it's actually, you know, the symbiote messing with his DNA? I want to say in the Venom movie, whenever Eddie was being scanned, I want to say his DNA was affected, or it might have just been his vitals and organ functions. But hey, that's just a theory, a TKO theory. And the last villain I want to talk about in this movie is Department of Damage Control. And the reason I think they're going to be a big addition to this movie is because they've been going after enhanced individuals, and Marvel can actually call them mutants now that they bought Fox. But they've been going after Miss Marvel, who they confirmed as a mutant. They've been going after Wonder Man, who is definitely a mutant. And then they also tried to go after Peter Parker after Mysterio revealed his identity. So I think they're going to be going after Sadie Sink's character in this movie. I think Punisher is going to have to protect her. I think that's why he's included in this film, because he just has a soft spot for, you know, young girls. Pause. So I think Marvel is slowly building them as, like, the first MCU mutant hunters. And obviously Spider-Man's going to have the problem with that, because they're just going to be going after, you know, innocent mutants. Same thing with the Punisher. So I think Department of Damage Control is going to be a significant part of this movie, to be quite honest. Especially Sadie Sink's character is a big addition to the film. Then Department of Damage Control is going to have a pretty big role, and they'll probably have an elevated role from what they had in No Way Home, where they've got introduced to a lot of people for the first time on the big screen. But ultimately, I think this movie is going to be fine. They've had 5 years to work on this movie, which is a great sign to me. Deadpool Wolverine needed a solid 6 more months to tighten the script, but unfortunately, that movie actually got bumped up from November to July. So that kind of sucked for the people working on the movie. No Way Home was made only 2 years after Far From Home, and in my opinion, that script desperately needed more time. So I definitely liked how Marvel and Sony took their time with this one, and I feel like they'll balance all these characters into a cohesive, self-contained, true Spider-Man story. Until the post-credit scene, of course, which will likely set up Avengers Doomsday. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, and like, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to check out some of my other videos. Every single day until the movie drops, I'm dropping a Spider-Man brand new day related video, and then I'm also gonna react live. I'm gonna go live for the Comic-Con. I'll give you all the updates as soon as they're happening, so make sure to check that stream out. It's gonna happen July 25th, so I'm very excited for that. But thank you guys for watching. As always, God bless you all.
To ask you for one thing. I want you to kill Peter Parker.